Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today we're going to talk about hydraulics, and in particular, one of my most favorite tools. I call this a bobcat because so many of you know what a bobcat is, but it's also known as a skid steer. And this particular brand is called a Thomas skid steer. So if you learned something today from this video, please click that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell icon as well. And while you're at it, go check out Dr. Deck's Masterclass of deckboard bending at drdecksmasterclass.com and drdecks.com. All right, so here we go. I don't use this machine on the job site every day, but when I have the ability to bring this to a job and leave it here and use it for heavy lifting and moving of dirt, rock, and gravel, it's invaluable. I've had a bobcat. I've owned a skid steer for about half of my career, I'd say, about 15 years of it. Once I could afford it and I was looking for investment for my business, I have a mini skid, a skid steer, and a forklift. Those are the three pieces of equipment that I own that I really don't think I could live without. Once you have them, you figure out ways to use them. So basically I wanted to go through a run through of what this machine is and what it does. And so this is a medium duty skid steer. I would say it's not a heavy hitter. It doesn't have high flow hydraulics, but it does have the ability to run accessories and different types of implements. We have an auger with an auger bit, and the bit size can change, and we can put that and hook it to the front of the machine, hook up the auxiliary hydraulics, and then there's a button right here on the handle that will allow you to turn it on and off, or there's a switch in my cab that allows me to activate it as well, depending on what implement it is. But we're going to start with the basics. So when you're running the machine, you have to have this safety bar down. When the safety bar is down, then you have access to all the controls. Now, if you ever played Battlezone when you were a kid, you're going to love this machine. If you're good at Battlezone, you're going to kick butt at running a skid steer. All right, so basically, it's like a tank. You have forward and backward. This side controls the right side of the machine. This side controls the left side of the machine. And you make it turn by reversing the flow. And what you're doing, when you move these levers, you're moving the hydraulic fluid around the machine to different pumps. And those pumps either turn a gear, they turn a wheel, they may pump fluid to a different part of the machine, depending on what your commands are. So this machine is set up for hand controls and foot controls. Your hand controls move the machine. Forward, backward, right, left, in a circle, pop wheelies, whatever you want to do in this thing, that's what your hand controls do. Your foot controls, they control the bucket and the boom. So your left foot right here on this pedal controls elevation of how high the bucket will come up or come down. This foot pedal over here controls the pivot point of the bucket for dumping and lifting and leveling things out. So it takes a minute to learn these controls. But after you've owned a machine for a while and you use it, you become fluid. Sometimes my commands are too much input for this size machine, and I have to wait for the machine to catch up to my commands because I like to be going in reverse, taking the bucket, dumping a material. I'm making several commands, so I'm using it's like a drummer. Drummers have unison and they have great control, and they are with the beat, and when they're running both their feet and their hands all the time, they're making all these incredible sounds. That's kind of what you do with this machine, is you're using both hands and both feet at the same time to make the machine flow. And once you capture that flow, then you know that you're a really decent operator because you can make the machine do several things. You're increasing your speed by doing that, by making things run at a certain way. So like, let's say I'm backblading and I'm dumping gravel at the same time, or I might be just dumping gravel, but I have a big pile. So I'll go scoop, and while I'm in reverse, then I'll start moving my feet to get the bucket to come up, and then I'll start immediately either dumping it or taking it to the spot. Once I get to where I want to be, then I'll start to tip the bucket before I get there, and then feather it out so I can drop the gravel. So a lot of it is just practice, practice, practice. A couple cool things about this particular machine. This is a Thomas 153, and I think it's called Muscle. I don't even know if they make these anymore. I bought it at an auction, got a pretty good price on it, had very low hours, and right now it only has 740 hours. I think I bought it with 350 hours or something like that. This machine, I know it can be adapted, so if you wanted to lock out, let's say you have bad ankles or something, and you wanted to lock out the foot controls, you could actually run this entire machine just with your hands. By running the sticks, you can turn them in and turn them out, and that will make the bucket raise and lower and dump and tilt. But my wrists are actually a little weak, so I don't do that. But I know there's a pin in here or some kind of a linkage that you can change to make that happen. I haven't done enough research on it. Maybe some hydraulic mechanics can reach out to me and let me know. I'd really love to put a high flow pump on here so I could put a jackhammer attachment on it. I don't have the resources for that, or I don't know the right mechanic that can do that for me. But some of the bigger machines, some of the John Deeres and some of the big Bobcats that are made can have a high flow pump. So there's an extra pump inside the cabinet of the machine. So if you have the high flow pump, it'll flow more hydraulic fluid and allow you to run some of those larger attachments that a standard machine won't run. So like I've tried to run a breaker or a jackhammer attachment on this machine, did not work. I actually had to go rent a bigger machine to be able to break up some concrete I had on a project. So is what it is. I'm really happy with this machine. It always starts for me. It always runs. I keep the battery charged if I'm letting it sit in the winter. I always keep it covered, usually at my house. And then when I take it on a job site, we just tarp the cab because it's really nice to get in on a dry seat instead of a wet one. So a couple other features of this machine. It's a diesel. It has a Kubota motor in it. So standard diesel, I've actually pulled the whole motor because I had to weld up the oil tank because it cracked. I think that they're notorious for doing that, especially when you're constantly jerking these machines because they can be herky-jerky, especially if you're trying to run on asphalt and concrete. But a couple other things, this has auxiliary for lights. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to turn it, activate the circuit so I can show you the lights. So now the lights are on. So there's two in the front and one in the back. And then I got my auxiliary hydraulics, which the machine's not running, but there's a indicator light in here that tells me my hydraulics are on. Or if I want to, and I have the hydraulics hooked up for my pulse hole digger or my auger bit, I can actually run that right here off the switch, right off the handle, which is kind of nice, but usually I'm just up here flipping this on and off. It has glow plugs, so you got to let them warm up when you first start the machine. And besides that, that's about it. It's hand movements forward, backward, and foot movements up and down, tilting and tipping. All right, guys, that's about all I have about this machine. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified every time we're putting out fresh content. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.